So SolidWorks has recently introduced a feature that lets you add 3D textures or patterns to the surface finish of your part, and then export that part to your 3D printer so that that texture or surface finish actually comes out in your part on your printer. There's kind of two reasons you might want to do this. The first is for aesthetic reasons. If you have a marbly or bumpy surface, a lot of imperfections are kind of hidden. So you'll actually notice, look around you, like tables and other parts just have a nubby surface finish, and that generally is there just for aesthetic reasons. The second reason is for mechanical properties. If you notice, a lot of parts around you just have knurls built right in them for grip. Take for instance this bottle of melatonin. Right here, these knurls actually give your hand something to grip on that helps you open the part. If this was smooth, it'd be a lot harder to grip. Same can be said for this water bottle. You'll see it on these bottles. They have a straight knurl. You'll also see it a lot on tools. This diamond knurl is very popular. If your fingers get wet or sticky or slippery, the knurls kind of cut through that liquid and give your fingers something to bite on. So you see it here. You'll often see it on anything that you need to get a good grip on. It's a lot easier to grip on knurls than it is to grip on something flat and smooth. These are a couple of sample parts that I made and print on my Elegoo resin 3D printer. The SLA has a lot higher resolution and really can bring out the detail of these very small features that the Prusa really can't do. For some reason, these cylindrical parts, the surface finish came out really poor. I think that's because I was using the gray resin. Now, I've never used the gray resin before, but I only noticed after printing that it needs 8 seconds per layer, and I was using the print settings on my clear resin, which is 5 seconds a layer. So I don't think the gray resin had enough time to cook, and that might have messed with the surface finish. But the actual texture came out great on these. All right, so we're gonna make a new part. Okay, so we're here, we got a blank, all right, so we're here, we got a blank new part. So let's just do something simple. Let's just create a square, dimension, let's just call it 2 inches by 1 inch. Great. Extrude this 1/10 of an inch, that's fine. Okay, so now that we have our 3D model, we can go to Appearances, Open Appearance Library. Mine actually happens to be open. Now let's pick a surface where we want to apply the texture to. Let's say this front one. What we're going to do is find one that we like. Let's say, I don't know. Say this checkered knurl pattern. Double click it, and now that's going to apply this texture or this image to your surface. Now, this is just a picture. It's actually not going to raise the 3D bumps on its own, but what we can do is double click, and we're going to get into all this. And this will, you can actually change which face if you want to apply it to, say, the whole body. We can apply it to the whole body, but I don't want to apply it to the whole body, so I can say delete, and it's just going to keep it on the face. So what you see here, wherever it is white, it is going to be raised, and wherever it's black, it's going to be where it is. And then the gray is going to be somewhere in between. It's going to ramp up and ramp down. So what we can do is change the mapping, and what this mapping is going to do is change the size of our pattern, and then this will change the orientation of our pattern. So once you get something that you like, let's just say 45 degrees, we can hit OK. And then we can go back to our part, featured tree, right? And then we're going to go to solid bodies. Right click, hit 3D texture. And this is going to turn your body into a mesh. Now you want to do this at the very last step, because once it's in a mesh, you can't go back in and alter your model. So we're going to turn on the texture. And we're going to kind of sort of see it. But what we want to do is change the mesh size to as small as it'll go. That's going to give us the highest resolution of our feature. You can kind of see it right now. We want to adjust our offset distance, and what that's going to do is just elevate the part even more. See, like that. And then white up, black down is just going to change whether, well, the white part of the texture is going to be up or down. So if we flip it, it's going to flip our texture. That's all it does. But I want this one to be up. once we have that, we're ready to rock and roll. Now, this texture refinement, I don't use it. What it supposedly does, it chops up the meshes even more. I'm going to reduce this size. What it supposedly does is chop up some of these meshes to be even finer. Let's change that. See, like that? Supposedly gives us more resolution. But what I found, it just really adds noise, and it makes your mesh and your surface finish look even worse. So I just dropped that down to 0 and then drop the mesh size as small as it'll go. And that is really how you add a 3D texture to your part. So at this point, we can hit OK. File, save as. What do we call this? Checkered neural pattern. Checkered neural pattern. Done. Yep. Great. And now we're ready to send this to our printer. Okay, so what if you want to do your own texture? Well, that's actually pretty easy to do too. So I just found this blank, piece of clip art, this heart. So what I'm going to do is copy image address, bring it into Pixlr. I just happen to use this, so I can load URL. Paste this in, go. So to prep this in Pixlr, what I'm going to do is add an empty layer, make that background white, double click this, which unlocks the image that I brought in. Click that, close that. Now I want to change the size. And that looks good. So now I need to merge visible. And then go into a blur. So what this blur is going to do is when we bring this into Solidworks, if we didn't have a blur, this would be the bottom layer and this would be the top layer of your texture. So the maximum height. And it would just be a flat edge and it wouldn't really look that great. So when you add this blur, it's going to add a little bit of a ramp to bring up to the top of the texture, if that makes sense. You'll see in a bit. So that looks good. So what I'm going to do is save this image as heart. Download. Okay, so that's going to be in my downloads. Now we're going to go back into SolidWorks. We're going to make a new part. And let's do a cylinder this time. So let's do top plane. Dimension. Let's make it an inch. And then let's make this 0.8. Gives us a 1/10 of wall thickness. Great. Now I need to make this an actual thing. So we're going to let's extrude this 2 inches. That looks great. And then once we have this, what we're going to do, a little bit different, we're going to right click, drop this, we're going to hit our part, we're going to hit browse, and we're going to browse we're going to change our filter to JPEG, and there's our heart. We're going to open that. And there is, and it's going to ask us to save an appearance file. So this is something that we can open later. We can hit save. And then now we have a new pattern over here. And for whatever reason, there's some noise here where it's trying to stitch it together. I don't know what happens, but it actually doesn't show up in the actual part. So I only want this to be on the surface, so I'm going to clear, select a face, apply our heart. That looks pretty good. And for mapping, you know what? That's actually a pretty decent size, but let's just do something small. Let's just see how it comes out. Yeah, that looks kind of neat, right? And let's do... yeah, sure, why not? Something like that. You can hit OK. And just like we did before, we're going to right click 3D texture. turn on the heart, convert this to yeah, all the way down. Oop, well, that actually went in, so if we want, we can flip it and have our hearts raised. And then that's our part ready to go. That seems like a pretty decent height. Now there's only one artifact here, and that's where the heart kind of wraps itself around, and if it's not lined up perfect, you're going to get a seam line. Just kind of comes with the territory. We can hit enter. And we're ready to save this off and send it to our 3D printing program. Alright, so I'm here in, zoomed very far into Cheeto Box. Got a blank thing here. So what we're going to do, we're going to add our files. And that was in, we had heart. We can open that. And we had, what was it? Neural? No. Small square neural? I think that was it. Yep. We had that. And I think you can print this in any orientation that you want. I think I would just print it in whichever way you would normally orient your part. So I would print these like that. And like that. So as far as I know, this feature is only available in SolidWorks 2019 or above, or if you're rolling Autodesk in Inventor. I don't think this is available in Fusion 360 yet, unfortunately. Hopefully this feature will be coming down the road for those of us using Fusion. But till then, if you're lucky enough to be using SolidWorks, have fun. And I hope this was helpful, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.